Howdy hey and happy Halloween everyone! And this is my second video about celebrating Spooky Month. About a week and a half ago, I posted the first one all about some of the ghost types in Keltisha, my personal Fakemon project, but today I'm stepping away from Keltisha and instead taking a look at an event from my Discord server. Join in case you want to do more fun things like this. In said event, I gave everyone 2 weeks to make a spooky Fakemon for Halloween, and boy did you guys deliver! Then, I redesigned some of them that I really liked. And if you didn't make it, don't worry. Just because I didn't redesign yours doesn't mean I hate it. Every single submission was incredible. And besides, I'll be hosting many more events in the future. But, without further ado, let's hop in. So, the first submission I redesigned was actually the first submitted, or one of the first. Pumpkinillo by Ghost Art is super eye-catching and unique design. An armadillo is already a super cool animal. I'm surprised it hasn't been made into a Pokemon. And no, Sandshrew doesn't count. And making the plates into a pumpkin, while simple, charming for that exact reason. I love the contrast of the scary pumpkin face and the scared armadillo face. Something that also appears in another submission later on. But nothing else to say other than it's just a super start to a spooky special. So, here's Pumpkinillo, a grass and fairy type. Some researchers believe that this Pokemon can see the spirits of those who have passed. The thick pumpkin shell wards off predators and otherworldly threats. Alright, that one might not have been as spooky as you were hoping, but this one is going to be a bit scarier. Kinda. Alright, fear is subjective, but I think it's a tiny bit creepier, that being Hallowl by Diamond Armor. At first glance, I thought it had a Plague Doctor inspiration going on, but the dex didn't say anything about that, so... What its dex does say is that all it does, all it has ever done, all it ever do, is watch. Day in and day out, never moving, never interfering, never even blinking. It simply observes. Anyways, black and orange is a really cool color scheme. Yeah, I love this little guy. Yeah, the lore might be a little unsettling to some, but I think, if anything, I'm a sucker for silly little guys. Anyways, here's Hallowl, a normal type. These Pokemon prefer not to fight. Instead, they choose to simply watch from a high branch. They will watch something all day long, and if noticed, it will retreat, finding something else to watch. The next Pokemon on our list of spooky specimens is Metaghoul, submitted by Jack-O-Lantern. Now, even though he did technically submit one too many Pokemon, submitting a 3-stage line instead of 2 like I requested, it's still a really cool idea. A Pokemon based on a haunted suit of armor is a really cool concept, especially with how much said trope is used in media. The closest real Pokemon we have to that is Aegislash line, but that's a haunted sword and not a suit of armor. Also, a little ghost with little scraps progressively getting more armored is exactly the kind of progression that Pokemon uses, like actual Game Freak. As for the reason I picked Metaghoul instead of its evolution or pre-evolution, well, I have 2 reasons. First, it has a good balance of spooky ghost body and solid armor. Second, I saw potential in Metaghoul's shield. See, the whole line has rust on their armor, seeing that it's just scrap metal and not, like, shiny new armor. However, Metaghoul also has this shadowy, spooky face on its shield. I thought it would be interesting to simply give it the illusion of a scary face. Because of that, it's gonna have the Intimidate ability. So here is Metaghoul, a ghost and steel type. These Pokemon gather scrap metal to create armor to protect its tender, wispy body, as well as those it loves. They say it's the soul of those who died and got lost in scrapyards. Now, if we take a trip back down memory lane, we can remember that Pumpkinillo is a grass and fairy type. Well, there is another Pokemon I redesigned with that exact same type combo, being Grineath by 7 Stitches. Now, you might be thinking, but that looks like a dark type and not a fairy type. Well, that's the thing. The original artist specifically mentioned that they wanted it to be a fairy type because they can, in fact, be pretty messed up. As for the Pokemon itself, it's based on a folktale monster called Jenny Greenteeth, a woman-like monster that drowns both old and young people. Jenny also disguises itself as duckweed, hence the grass type and the green stuff on its head, and the little spots on its body. As for why I chose it, well, it's definitely a spooky guy, but it's also a bit cute, and as we already established, I love little guys. So, yeah, I love him. He definitely hits that balance of cool, creepy, and cute. So, anyways, here's Grineath, a grass and fairy type. These Pokemon are infamous for waiting in lakes and ponds, waiting for something to come along, then drowning them as their way of hunting. It isn't picky and will eat both people and Pokemon alike. Okay, so I'm not gonna just flat out say that Pokemon have to be ghost type to be scary. Heck, just look at Hatterene. But it certainly does help. And we're already 4 Pokemon in and only 1 ghost type. So, let's change that with Eakbogami. Sorry if I said that wrong. Submitted by Plaguedude. It obviously incorporates many different yokai into its design. I'm not going to attempt naming them because I will mess them up. But there already are plenty of Pokemon that are just yokai. Like, for example, Mawile. But there's also just plain out yokai that are just straight up in the design. Also, the name is pretty yokai sounding, so that's a plus. Here's Eakbogami. I'm sorry. Eakbogami, a ghost and dark type. Despite not having a face of its own, it's able to summon spirits with faces of their own. After being mocked by the spirits it keeps around, it has become rather irritable. And finally, what's the spookiest show you can think of? You might have said something like Stranger Things or... well, I don't know, I don't watch horror things. But chances are, you probably didn't say Scooby-Doo. Yeah, there are plenty of ghosts, but the cartoony style isn't terribly, well, terrible. And Scooby-Doo, by DeLonghi, showcases that cartoony, goofy style of horror perfectly here, with the eerie green color, terrified expression, and, of course, giant Scooby-Doo villain for a backside. Yeah, it's silly, but that's kind of the point. Also, Spookydoo. Yeah, that's peak fiction. I don't really have to say much about this. It's already perfect. So, here's Spookydoo, a ghost and fairy type. Half of this spectral Pokemon's body is always terrified, while the other half is always trying to scare the first half. Despite never causing harm, the front half falls for it every time. And that's all I have for today. And if you participated but I didn't redesign your submission, don't worry, because here's everyone that didn't quite make the cut. Regional Inkay and Clemamar by Zach Did a Thing, Scrapid and Haunt Knight by Jackalighter, Examori by Limes5, Cursetomb and Soulsteed by Scarlet, Hundu by the Logan, Heybei and Spock Croctor, sorry if I said that wrong, by Liam, Pumpkinillo and Hydelius, also probably said those wrong, I'm sorry, by Green Boy, Wisplet by 7 Stitches, Shopalope by Conic, and Junkman by Pangle. This one might be a joke, but I'm not sure. Now, I don't know about you lot, but I'm going trick-or-treating. So, see ya, and happy Halloween.